paranoid and homicidal lunatic suffering from delusions of grandeur.
Yes, but now I work for the United Nations.
So your work has not changed. But you don't practice medicine at the UN. His license to practice has been lifted, correct?
Why? What did he do?
You know what doctors aren't allowed to do with their lady patients?
Yeah.
Well, he did.
Oh, how disgusting.
Are you making moral judgments, Mrs. Peacock? How then do you justify taking bribes in return for delivering your husband, Senator Peacock's, to certain lobbyists?
My husband is a paid consultant. There is nothing wrong with that.
Not if it's declared, perhaps. But the payment is delivered by slipping used greenbacks in plain envelopes under the door of the men's room. How would you describe that transaction?
That's it. Stinks.
Well, how would you know? When were you...
True.
No, it's a vicious lie.
But you've been paying blackmail for over a year now to keep that story out of the papers.
Well, I am willing to believe you. I, too, am being blackmailed for something I didn't do.
Me too.
And me.
Not me.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Clue the Movie Podcast, where we break down the 1980 cult classic film Clue 1 minute at a time. My name is Brad Gilmore. I'm joined by the documentarian himself, Jeff Smith.
Hello.
Slightly under the weather. I think that you were standing outside during the rain at the Body Mansion.
Yeah. Nobody answered the door when I was out there for a while, unfortunately.
Well, you made it off better than the singing telegram girl.
Yeah, that's true. I will not be singing any telegrams today, that's for sure. But I will certainly discuss minute 21.
Yeah, we're on minute 21 yes. Of Clue the Movie. And this minute begins with Wadsworth finishing his joke to Professor Plum, revealing what he's doing or what his blackmail is. And then we also hear what Miss Peacock was doing, Mrs. Peacock, that is. And we almost start to hear what Miss Scarlet is doing.
Miss Scarlet is fun in this scene. I was just watching her. She darts around the room just to throw out an insult. She's got to burn some calories to get around the couch just to make Mrs. Peacock feel worse than she already does. With her little, I say it stinks. With a little bathroom pun. She's quick.
She definitely is quick. Again, we knew that this moment was coming where we were going to finally find out exactly what everyone's blackmail is going to be. And I think here in a couple of minutes, we'll actually discuss who is the most guilty as far as their crimes against humanity are. We think that we might know already, but let's grade Professor Plum right now on a 1 to 10 of dastardliness. Because he was doing what he was not supposed to do with their female patients, the doctor, supposedly. He's a psychiatrist. So essentially, women were coming in who weren't fully mentally balanced for whatever reason, trauma in their life that they're dealing with. And I guess he persuaded them with his gift, or rather curse, of communication in order to...
Well, he's a very, very handsome man. So first of all, you walk in and you see Professor Plum, or you see a balding 1985 Christopher Lloyd. Already strike one. But yes, the power of his pipe smoking and his manipulative words, I'm sure, just... I wonder what his percentage rating was, though. How many did he attempt and how many turned him down? Probably a low number on the success rate, but he is persistent. As we've seen in the movie, he moves from Scarlet to Yvette to Mrs. Peacock later. I mean, he doesn't really care.
He does not care, and he has no shame in his game. He does not suffer from the George McFly fear of rejection. He is 100%. I don't care if I go out in a blaze of glory.
No,
but I would say this is yes, he put his mind to it and he can accomplish anything, I guess. But I think this is very bad, and I understand why one would be blackmailed for this, obviously. But this one, especially if we look at this through the lens of today, not that it was ever okay, but today more than ever, this is something that if this occurred, we would find out about it instantaneously. I don't know if this would see through blackmail, or live long enough to go to blackmail.
Well, obviously more people know than just the blackmailer because he was fired from another job. But I guess after he was fired, they just kind of went, well, off you go. And there are no records of it back then. So he was able to transfer somewhere else. And it sounds like he's still up to his old tricks.
You would probably have to go to a different state, though, right? I mean,
the jokes I'm like putting away right now. I think we all know what group we're thinking about right now. Transferring people around for wrongdoing. Yes, I would think probably maybe he's from somewhere else. He certainly doesn't. If he's was in Washington, and he seems pretty like he was like, well, now I do this. Well, now I do that. This is probably not his first transfer.
Mm-hmm. We're gonna find out
a lot about it. Like it's probably more of an inconvenience for him that he has to pack his bags and move because he hasn't learned any lessons. Even a blackmail hasn't made him go, you know what? Maybe I should not be such a cad, because he picks up a hitchhiker and immediately has his hand on her bum in less than 3 minutes. Professor Plum, bad guy,
very bad man. I'm trying to think, because we will meet other characters when we get deeper into the movie, but I'm trying to think if Professor Plum is the only person whose victim we actually meet, right?
Yeah, I mean, the cop is on Miss Scarlett's payroll, and the motorist was the driver. So they were more like they were they all were eventually, we find out, helping Mr. Body, providing information. So the motorist and the cop and the singing telegram girl and the cook and Yvette, we find out, all dropped a dime on all their people. It's funny that when the characters of Clue walked into the house at the beginning of the night, they didn't go, what is she doing here? They all play it very, close to like Mustard should have recognized. Well, I guess they do. Like, I see each other, so they do show that they recognize each other, but they still play it cool for a good 10 minutes about who they all are. Nobody, like when the motorist shows up, Professor or Colonel Mustard doesn't go, "Hey, my driver," and so what are you doing here? You always were getting flat tires in the rain, but Professor Plum. It's actually victims that came forward as opposed to just people that knew information, I guess.
We then hear what Mrs. Peacock is accused of, and she's essentially accused of bribes.
Taking bribes, taking money. Yep.
Which is not unlike what you would expect from a politician's anything, wife, themselves, so on and so forth. I think bribery was pretty easy for Jonathan Lynn to pin on Miss Peacock.
And on Peacock. I mean, I put her down the list. I'm sure Mr. Green is way down, because all we get from Mr. Green, and it's funny because Mrs. White there towards the end says, well, I'm being blackmailed for something I didn't do. And Mr. Green says, so am I. But the only thing we hear him later say is that he has to keep the fact that he's homosexual a secret. So what is it that he's being accused of that he's not doing? I don't think we ever find out. And I never really noticed until we were watching this minute that he says, so am I. And then I think Colonel Mustard Colonel Mustard.
Yes, Mustard.
Yeah, me too. But Colonel Mustard's full of it. But what was Mr. Green alluding to? Because then when he says, I'm sure I want to, we'll get to that minute in a second, because that's Mr. Green's moment. And I think that's probably coming up very soon. But this was the first time I noticed him say, I didn't do what I'm being accused of.
Well, this is, I think, our big break in this minute, because you're right. Here's the thing, and we're going to get to Mr. Green's scene, but just to fast forward slightly, Wadsworth never reads his letter.
No, that's what I was thinking of. That's what I stopped myself from saying, because he shuffles it like that's not what it says. Well, I mean, as we'll hear and see in just another episode. You're gonna have to wait a week or two, friends, but it's coming.
Wow, that is huge. By the way, I just brought up Jonathan Lynn, and of course, this is my favorite Jonathan Lynn movie. But it's interesting. As I'm reflecting on my most recent weekend, we won't say what the date of the weekend was to not date our podcast, but my most recent weekend, I just realized I had a bit of a Clue / Jonathan Lynn themed weekend because I shared with you before we started filming that I played the board game Clue with my wife and sister-in-law.
Who won, by the way?
Which was my sister-in-law won. Here's what happened. I knew the person and I knew the weapon. I got it down to about 4 possible rooms or a little bit less. I think 3 possible rooms. Yeah. And I was pretty sure as the room, but it was 50-50. So I said, we're getting to that point in the game to where if I don't make that accusation soon, somebody else will, and I've missed my shot. So I said, you know what? I need to take a big swing, right? As Babe Ruth said, you have to be big to hit big. And I was trying to hit big on this one. And I had the correct weapon. I had the correct person. I did not have the correct room.
You gambled and lost.
I gambled and lost, man. You know, it was very unfortunate. Very unfortunate. However, we played Clue. Then, though, we watched My Cousin Vinny.
Okay.
Which is a Jonathan Lynn directed film, for those who don't know.
A mystery in itself.
A mystery in itself. Very small.
But it's funny that the Englishman directed a movie that's so down South America and I guess East Coast America when you talk about Joe Pesci and Marissa Tomei's characters.
Well, when you talk about the movie again of My Cousin Vinny, there's actually some comparatives to Clue in the sense of it is a mystery that we're trying to kind of figure out in a way, right?
Big time.
It's a small setting. It takes place in one town, as opposed to in Clue, it's only one place, but just one small little town. Only about 4 or 5 different locations really within the town that it takes place. And then
the name of the shop, Suds, and do you remember
Sack of Suds? Sack of Suds.
Okay. I haven't seen it in a while, but for some reason that sticks in my mind. The Sack of Suds.
Sack of Suds.
I shot the clerk.
And I shot the clerk. I shot the clerk. Ralph Macchio. But
well done.
I really loved like the smallness of the movie. Right? Yeah. Because that is something that I really don't feel like is made today so much. You don't have a lot of movies with smallness, of a small area, small story. Most things are big. The Avatars of the world, the Marvel tent poles, the Star Wars of them all.
Skybeam in the middle of the town.
Yeah, exactly. There's always something big that happens. And in these movies, they're so small, but they were so great. And I know that some people shade Marissa Tomei for that movie and winning the Academy Award. They're like, how did she win an Oscar for My Cousin Vinny? She is fantastic in the movie.
She is. And nobody would better than Joe Pesci. If she hadn't won the Academy Award. I think they would just think, oh yeah, she was really good at it. But she's very good at it. And she's very quotable. That's a movie that, like I said, I haven't seen it in a long time. But I used to quote that on accident a lot. And they're all her lines. Like I would say dead on balls accurate a lot. And I sometimes forgot where it came from, but it's her line. It's a technical, or it's a, what did she say? It's an
industry term.
It's an industry term. Yeah, dead on balls accurate.
You know, I'd always say is, and I wouldn't say it like her, but now I can almost not get her voice out of my head. But you're such a smooth talker.
Yeah,
you know,
you handled that judge.
Oh, yeah. And then my biological clock is ticking like this.
Yeah.
You know? Oh, she's so great. She's so good great and beautiful, by the way. Like,
oh yeah,
you want to talk about
on-screen
crushes? Oh, George screwed that one up. He screwed the pooch. And then I ended up watching though a murder mystery that references Clue in Glass Onion. So it was a very Clue-filled weekend for me.
It's nice. That sounds like my last 5 years.
It is. It is exactly what your last 5 years
Yeah,
were. But I guess we've been so in the Jonathan Lynn bubble, or a Clue bubble, that you kind of forget some of the other movies that Jonathan Lynn is in. And I believe there was some crossover as far as other people on My Cousin Vinny that had to deal with Clue. I believe maybe the casting director was the same. Was it Jane Jenkins?
Jay Jenkins is a casting director on Clue for sure. She's in the documentary that I made. I got to interview her. Mm-hmm. So yeah, probably.
I think she was on My Cousin
Vinny. That's nice to know. I mean, the funny thing about Jonathan Lynn is his style is he adapts. I mean, I guess you could kind of find things like that's very interesting that you would say Simple Settings, because he also did a movie that I really like called Greedy with Michael J. Fox and Kirk Douglas and Phil Hartman and Colleen Camp. And that movie basically takes place at this mansion, another mansion, different mansion. But most of it, as memory serves, takes place just at this one big house. So I guess that's his style. But it's kind of like you watch Whole Nine Yards with Bruce Willis and Matthew Perry. And that's John Lynn directed that too.
Yeah, I'm looking at when you look at it. So you have. Wait a minute. Okay, why have I never looked at his
Distinguished Gentleman?
IMDb here? Distinguished Gentleman, but the much forgotten other courtroom drama that he did, Michael Richards, Jeff Daniels,
Trial by Air,
and I believe Charlize Theron. I think she's in that movie, right? Isn't she the love interest? A Trial and Error, yes.
Trial and Error. I never saw it.
Terrible.
Yeah, that's what I heard. I remember when it came out and did not do well. Michael Richards, famously, if he met someone that saw the movie, he would hand them $10 or whatever for the ticket.
Yeah, it just doesn't.
Because he knows how to handle controversy. So, well, I can see no problem there.
I believe if I watched the movie once, and I believe the plot was Jeff Daniels is an attorney, like a high-powered attorney who has to go do this court case, and Michael Richards is like his goofy best friend, and Michael Richards ends up somehow accidentally being the Jeff Daniels lawyer. Like he ends up representing the victim or the criminal or whatever the case was. I don't remember
this was after My Cousin Vinny, right?
This was after, yeah.
So they probably thought, we've got this funny courtroom movie. Who directed My Cousin Vinny? Let's get him. And oh well.
But a really good title.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll come back.
Trial and Error is good. That's good. That's a good one. So we went down the Jonathan Lynn rabbit hole. We've made a discovery about Mr. Green.
For us too. That was related. So
yes.
We're still on. So good. We're good.
We found a way to bring it all together. But anyway, My Cousin Vinny. That's going to be our Jeff and I's next podcast. We're going to really break down the case. We need thicker glasses in order to inspect that one with the utmost.
We'll be making grits really fast.
Now, you are a California native, correct?
Yes.
And you're currently residing in the great city and state of Boston, Massachusetts.
Correct.
I am a Southerner, and grits is a part of my life. Grits are a big deal down here. Are you a grit eater?
I've never had grits.
Never.
No. My nieces have, because their mother is not from California. So I know that if someone is from somewhere else, they will bring it with them. But that being said, I should not be the basis on exotic food, which you probably think is funny to say about grits. But I did not have a very adventurous family growing up. I don't think I had Chinese food till my 20s. So I should not be the one to be the one to rate on. But to this day, now in my 40s, I still have not had grits. But I know how long it takes to make it. Thank you, My Cousin Vinny.
15 to 20 minutes. No self-respecting Southerner uses instant grits.
And I know that too. I take pride in my grits. Oh, I know that movie better than I thought. So sad.
Pride in my grits.
I can quote My Cousin Vinny.
Well, I think for this minute, we've fulfilled our duties
and
for
some.
This minute. And some. Yeah. And I think we'll pick it up and But again, right now we've let me ask you this actually before we wrap it up. Peacock or Plum, who has the worst offense committed?
Easy.
Plum. I agree.
I think that'll be the answer for almost everybody.
I think so. But we're gonna see because one involves death. So no, death's pretty bad.
That's true. And he doesn't.
But we'll see.
Right, we'll get there. At the house, he's actually pretty well behaved for him. But okay, we'll see you next time.
Once he gets in the door, maybe.
Yeah.
But that is Jeff Smith, cluedoc.com, who done it.
Right.
And I am Brad Gilmore on all social media at Brad Gilmore, except for TikTok, which I'm on, by the way. At Boat Gilmore is where you can find me. Boat Gilmore. BOAT. Yes, Boat Gilmore is where you can find me over there. Well, and at the next minute, we will explain it. Until then, Jeff Smith, Brad Gilmore. We'll see you next time on Clue the Movie Podcast.